Welcome to The Real with Joseph Labman. I am Joseph Labman. Thank you for tuning in to this episode of The Real, taking time out of your day to come watch this episode. I really appreciate that. If you haven't subscribed already, please subscribe for me. I'd really appreciate that as well. That's the best way you can support this channel and help me grow my content and grow this channel to where I'd like it to be. Everybody hit the like button for me on the way in on this video today. That also helps promote this video more in the algorithms, helps grow this channel more as well. Please share this content. I would really appreciate that. My guests would as well. If you would please share this episode with someone you know that maybe is interested in the topic we're talking about today. Please leave a comment below as well. We'd love to hear your guys' feedback. You can interact with myself and the guest on the panel and the live chat as well. Whatever we're talking about, just leave a comment there in the live chat. Pop in and say hello. We'll put it on the screen for you. And without further ado, let's get to the show. Welcome back to The Real with Joseph Labman. I am Joseph Labman, my co-host, Mike. How we doing on this fine Sunday, Mike Antonies?
I'm doing fantastic. Little brother just graduated from high school, so got to see that. Got me all misty-eyed. But how are you doing today, Joseph?
I'm doing good. I'm excited. I've been looking forward to this interview. We got a legend in the house tonight, Mike. A lot of people watching tonight probably know if you're in the Akron area in Ohio, if you're an athlete. You may have worked with Coach Legrair at one time. You may know Coach Legrair, heard of him. Everybody knows Coach Legrair that I know. So Coach Legrair is a legend, a track and field coach, coaches girls track and field, has coached many Olympian athletes such as Butch Reynolds, many professional athletes, all sports. I was one of his athletes for a summer, worked out with him for a whole summer, and was a great summer. Learned a lot in that summer and just really helped me learn about speed, but also just recovery, performance, hydration, nutrition. I mean, everything. And definitely that's why we put world-class trainer in there, because he is a world-class trainer. And so I'm really looking forward to tonight, Mike. How about you?
I'm looking forward to it. I'm so excited to hear what wisdom he's here to impart and just talk about his story a little bit, hear about his program, and you know how he does what he does. It's going to be super exciting to hear.
And I know we have some athletes and parents that may be tuning in tonight, coaches as well. If you have any questions for Coach Legrair, I'll drop the link in the chat. And then also, I may have the call-in line as well down below. I'll get that up here as Coach is talking on my end, so we can have the call-in line open. You can also leave a comment as well. We'll put the comment on the screen for you, and he'll answer your question. So without further ado, Mike, let's get the legend up here himself, Coach Legrair. Coach, welcome on into The Real.
The legend. I like you. You did that just the way I wrote it. Legend in my own mind, mostly.
Yeah.
I appreciate you
Coach,
guys reaching out and getting to me, man. I appreciate this.
Oh, Coach, I can't thank you enough for coming on. I guess we'll start here, Coach. Kind of just who you are. I mean, what's your background? Kind of where you grew up, and what was your life growing up? And I don't know if you grew up in Akron. What kind of sports did you play? What was your athletic background as well?
Grew up in Akron, East Side. So the people watching from the East Side don't know what that is.
Absolutely.
Grew up in Akron, Goodyear Middle School. Now they call it, used to be junior high back in the day, the real day. And then I was the beast from Akron East. So graduated from East High School, participated in track and field and basketball at East High School, as well as in middle school. And then on to college. Went to the Ohio State University, played JV basketball at the Ohio State University. But I transferred and graduated from Ohio U. Have a Bachelor's of Science degree in communications with an emphasis on production and performance. Went that journalism route a little bit as well. Mm-hmm. Started doing the athlete thing way young. I have 5 sisters, and later on I'll tell you what the significance of having 5 sisters and no brothers is for athletes. But they all participated in stuff. My dad was a football athlete at East High School in the 40s in track and field, 9,900 guy back in the mid 40s when he was at East High School. And it just kind of propelled into that. Just kept playing stuff, kept doing stuff, and ended up doing what I'm doing now, which I had no clue. Never sought out to teach, train, or coach athletes. It just happened. And so we ended up to what we're doing right now. I thought way back when Butch Reynolds and I were doing a camp at the Joy Park Community Center, and we had about 15, 20 athletes, and it was a tough day. This one day we had a couple of kids that were sort of acting out a little bit, as kids do. And I was leaving the community center and telling someone that was walking with me, man, this kid worked me today. I don't know why I do this. And there was a woman standing at the door, and I opened the door for her. She walked out and she said, because you're supposed to. And I'm thinking to myself, what is she talking about? Get in the car, go home, and later on I'm thinking, was she talking to me? I asked the question, why am I doing this? And never knew her, never saw her again. And a friend of mine said it might have been a ghost. And she said, you're supposed to. So that was then, and here we are now.
Yeah, Coach, that's amazing story. It's just so sounds like you went through a little bit of adversity early on in your career with that. What inspired you to like stick with it, stay with coaching, stay with the program, continue in your craft, and helping young athletes, advance to whatever goals they may have, academic, athletic? You had mentioned that you had grew up with 5 sisters. How did that kind of play into your job, your life, and where it took you?
Well, what I learned later on, and I had this conversation with Dr. Congeni at Children's Hospital Sports Medicine, who has always been helpful. I went to seminars there, injuries and all that good stuff. But girls do things differently than boys. So me having 5 sisters, I was probably the only boy in the neighborhood that could play jacks, jump rope, hopscotch, and all of those things, double dutch, rick-rack paddle. So what I learned later on after college was the reason I was about 10, 12 years old and faster than most 16-year-olds is because I did movement games. Girls play movement games. Boys play avoidance, tag, gotcha, that kind of stuff. So for that, girls are way more flexible than boys. And flexibility is a critical part to athletic movement. And later on, I'll tell your viewers and you guys why you're so slow. But the movement piece is all into mobility, flexibility. And that's what girls do. Unfortunately for girls, they're also 8 to 10 times more likely to tear an ACL or MCL from turning around or walking. And one of the biggest reasons for that is not a lot of people know how to coach girls. That sounds crazy. I know a lot of coaches that coach girls, but they're just a little bit different. As I said earlier, they're way more flexible, but they don't know how to do some fundamental movements like jumping and landing. One of the things that I think recently, a couple months ago, all the local news stations were hitting on all these injuries, and they were showing the collapse that girls do when they land. That causes a significant amount of injuries. Collapsing meaning when they land, both knees bang. When they move to the left, both knees bang. So that causes some wear and tear on the ACL and MCL, and then you get some ankles and shoulders in there. And from walking to the car, they tear an ACL. Most female injuries of that nature are non-contact. Nobody hit them. Most male injuries along that line, they ran into something. The ones you run into or get hit, we can't prevent a lot, but we can work significantly to reduce the impact from non-contact injuries. They did study on this in the 80s, and they couldn't understand why. But primarily, you got to coach girls a little bit differently, a little bit of different preparation for them. And then
go ahead.
The piece on, sometimes I see people running or jogging, and I turn my head. I'm like, they're going to be hurt. Foot strikes are weird. Ankle things are weird. Their arms are going crazy. So we're wasting a lot of energy with motion. So the more efficient we can be, the more Usain Bolt-ish we can be by having that efficiency and being able to correct the little things that make a big difference later on.
Yeah, I remember one of my first sessions with you out at Copley High School. I remember you told me the story about a girl. One time I did lunges the wrong way, and she walked out to her car, boom, torn ACL, out 9 months. And that was it. And I remember that's where I learned about the proper mechanics, proper form. And you just did an article as well, like myself, with Voyage, Ohio. And in the article, you talk about as well, athletic improvement is best completed in phases. And so
Absolutely.
kind of where did you learn a lot of that, the methods for that, kind of just kind of the method you use, the philosophy. Where did all that kind of come from? Where did you learn a lot of that from? Was it just from college at Ohio State and just more experience? What was that? Where did that come from?
It's mostly some experience, trial and error, and I've been fortunate. And there's a couple of things I know. One of them is I don't know everything. So knowing that, I know how to find the answer. I mean, there was a time period where I could reach out to, and I still can, to a gold and silver medal Olympian from Akron. I got a question about a 400 runner's toes and hips and ankles. Hey, did you ever have this? I can do that. When Butch Reynolds was the speed coach at the Ohio State University, Jim Tressel was the coach. I was down there doing stuff with football with Butch. We're stretching athletes. We're doing sprints. We're doing recovery stuff. So that gave me an opportunity to learn a lot of stuff. My son was a state hurdler, did hurdles in high school and in college. And at the time, I was down there with Butch Reynolds. I was like, why is my son not getting through this 6th, 7th, and 8th hurdle like he does 1 through 5? So I'm down at Ohio State, and Butch said, guess who's going to be here today? Joe Brown, number 3 hurdler in the world. I'm like, you kidding me? You know him? He said, yes. He came over to Woody Hayes Center, and Butch introduced me to him. Really nice guy. And I'm like, man, I got some hurdle questions one time I'd like to ask you. He said, want to do it in 5 minutes? I'm like, how much time I get? He said, how much time you need? This dude sat down and I wrote down 4 pages of legal size notepad on stuff that he did when he was injured, how he got through 6, 7, and 8 hurdle, what foot to put up in the front, tried it. It was phenomenal. And I'm writing like a madman. I'm just writing all this stuff down, taking it in. Longer story shorter, 2 meets later, my son dropped about 0.4 of a second in his hurdle race.
Wow.
So, and then there was a 400 runner I met down at Ohio State. She was world-class 400-meter hurdler and a world-class 400 runner. She had a significant injury. She thought she would never run again. She sat down and talked to me, gave me her phone number. She recovered from a devastating injury and came back and still was like top 10 in the world. So that's the stuff that I've been fortunate enough to follow up with. I can call Children's Hospital Sports Medicine and say, what are kids presenting this year? What's the new injury? Right. And predominantly for most 8 to 17-year-olds, it's the same thing, overuse, which is maybe a topic for another day. But a lot of the little injuries that kids 8 to 17 have are predominantly from significant overuse and fatigue.
Yeah, that's for sure. I know a lot of guys in that age group, guys, dads who have kids, and just like the amount of AAU basketball now. They're playing AAU basketball in the spring, and they're playing 4 or 5 games a day sometimes. No practice, no recovery. And, then they'll go play baseball after that the same week. I'm like, man, that's a lot of strain you're putting on the body, a lot of kids too, mentally. They just I know you know this, they check out of it,
Yeah. It's pretty aggressive. There is, I have 2 athletes now that I know are going out of high school baseball. This is championship week, track and field, baseball, softball. So they'll leave possibly next weekend and maybe done with their high school stuff. Yeah. And they're going to go right to soccer, right to baseball, right to, football's already started. So by this being America, we parents think that more is better. If you got more money, it might be better. You got more cars, it might be better, maybe not. But when it comes to athletic stuff, more is not better. Playing the same sport 12 months, not good. Playing 3 sports in 1 season, not good. You could almost walk through any high school in the state and you can just tell who's probably have a significant overuse injury. They're in braces. They got braces on their elbows. They got braces on their shoulders. They got braces on their knees, their ankles. So that's a good sign that they probably played 2 or 3 things, or maybe they just got unlucky and had an injury. But again, the non-contact things are a lot of stuff you can do to prevent those.
What do you think? And to follow up on that, before I let Mike go, because I'm real curious about this, Coach. Because how I'm getting back involved in a lot of this stuff and being around with my sister now, and obviously coach my sister in the track and field as well. So, you look at basketball, for instance, here, you look at the Celtics, you look at the Cavs, right? You look at the Celtics, they practice a lot like they usually do. They play, Jason Tatum plays a lot of minutes, does a lot of action when he's out there. Obviously unfortunately ruptured his Achilles last week. And then you look at the Cavs on the other side of it, who didn't practice for 2 months, and they get to the postseason, and boom, Garland and Mobley and Hunter all banged up out at the wrong time. And I think even I think Mitchell even had an injury as well, so he was just playing through. So what's kind of like the balance, do you think, between that, Coach? Because on one end, you saw a team this year that was completely rested and tried the best they could, and then come playoff time, it unfortunately didn't work out the way they wanted to. And then the other team as well, their star player just had an injury that's very tough to come back from and be the same player from ever again. I'm just curious, how do you find that balance, do you think?
Well, here, what I think is 2 things. Those injuries were contact. You can't do a lot to prevent the contact injuries. You're playing a sport, you're going to crash. You're going to run into something. But you go to the WNBA and you still see injuries from non-contact. And that's like poor body movement stuff. Also, what you get, these guys are getting old, man. When you start getting old, it takes a lot more to do stuff. If you or I tear our Achilles, we're probably down for a year or 2. Right. 12 to 18-year-old tear their Achilles, they're probably got about 7-8 months. That's why I thought Durant would never come back playing basketball.
What do you think is the common denominator in that injury? Because there's been a uptick in those as well, I've noticed, with athletes, especially in basketball.
Most of it is preparation. I just don't think, having known some NFL players and some basketball players and some pro baseball players, preparation is just not what it should be. They don't spend enough time doing prep. In general, preseason is your prep stuff. You know, we're getting our muscles right. We're doing the flexibility. We're doing the balance. We're doing the speed mechanics. We're doing all of those, the biomechanic things to prepare for your sport. But I just don't think people do that much anymore. If I do a little bit differently when I'm training an athlete, I do an evaluation. And from that evaluation, it tells me millions of things, what's going on. I do a video, and we break that video down frame by frame. I
remember my first day when I came to you, you filmed myself and Devo.
Yeah. So
that.
now I can see what we're doing, and I have an idea of what it should like when you're chasing the ball down. I played a lot of travel softball. I played left field. I ran in a parking lot to catch balls. So I kind of know what it feels like and what you're doing. Like, I'm watching a baseball kid chase a ball. He's got his arm out with the glove hand. Can't run fast with your arm out.
Right.
Why didn't your coach tell you to tuck that? You know, so, you know, I have a thing I tell my baseball kids, I'm going to probably get a patent on it. I will get you to second base. I don't care if you weigh 150 or 350.
I could attest to that as well. I could, because I worked with Coach the whole summer, and I'm just, for all the parents out there, I worked with Jim Gleisner, who was a former MLB baseball player. He got my mechanics down, right? I can make contact, but it's like you said, how can I get the doubles, turn the singles into doubles, sometimes triples? And that following season, Coach, I went out there in fall ball, and I remember my first game, I just hit what usually would just been a traditional, single, and by the time I got to first base, Coach just point and go second. I never had that happen before.
Yeah.
And, yeah.
there's just same thing with combine skills. When I was down at Ohio State with Butch Reynolds, I was fortunate enough to be on the field with Troy Smith's pro day. I think they gave out like 10 passes.
Wow.
And Butch said, "You want to go on the field?" I'm like, "Heck yeah." So I'm on the field.
Absolutely.
I'm meeting Chicago Bears scouts. I'm meeting Los Angeles Rams scouts. I'm meeting, all of these teams, man. And these guys were all very nice people. I had like 15 business cards from that day. And I'm like, I coach track and field and baseball and stuff, and I do movement training and stuff. They were all so interested, genuinely interested in doing that. Troy Smith didn't try real hard. I think he already had a deal, but he showed up and it looked pretty good. But I'm writing stuff down, man. I'm stealing stuff. I'm gonna tell you right now. You tell me if that worked, I'm gonna try that. Maybe it does not work. The thing I do is not cookie cutter. There could be a kid. I evaluated an athlete today. Foot strike was bad. Big kid. I think he was like 12, but he looked like he was like 15. Foot strike is bad. Arm movement's bad, kind of weak. So that's different from someone I evaluated last Sunday where they had pretty good foot strike, poor arm movement, poor head position, very tight. Boys are about 9 million more times tight than female athletes. If you're not flexible, you're not going fast. Right. I have a couple of athletes now that are huge, they're like 5'10", 6 feet. Legs are bigger than the horse secretariat. So they have difficulty raising their legs to go fast. If you can't raise your leg, you're not going fast. So you got to have that flexibility piece. Got to be agile, fragile, and mobile. I helped a lot of kids find colleges, football, baseball, basketball, tennis. I've never had a coach ask me to write something up on if they can pull an airplane with their neck. They want to know, are you fast? Can you stop? Can you turn? Can you move? That's what we need to coach. That's what we need to spend a lot of time on. It's a weird thing about speed and strength. Your speed window closes a heck of a lot faster than your Arnold Schwarzenegger window. You can look like Arnold Schwarzenegger when you're 60. Be a little flabby, but you can still look like that. But you're not going to run a 4.240 when you're 60.
No.
So you need to spend the time in your 15 to 20 somethings working speed, being flexible, being powerful. Now we can move. That's what they want to see. All of these drills that we see in the NFL Combine. Now I got kids playing soccer at a Cincinnati soccer kid that does 5-10-5 drill that they do for football. I got a volleyball player at Mount Union that does 5-10-5 and L drill. So what those drills do, it shows the coach, I am flexible, I'm powerful, I can stop, I can turn. That's what they want to see. None of those kids have been asked, can you squat a building? Because you're not going to chase a building on a football field. So it's just far more important to get that speed window out there. But unfortunately, I think a lot of times people have super good intentions on trying to do some of this stuff. But man, that's not going to work like that. You know, by the time you're in your late 20s, you start realizing, man, I spent all this time trying to weigh 325 pounds. Now I can't put my own shirt over my head. I can't bend down, tie my own shoe. I can't get in the 3-point stand. I'm not chasing anybody. Mm-hmm. So we need to work that speed window, be flexible, be powerful.
Right. And you said something that kind of stood out with like the conditioning of these athletes. And Joseph had mentioned that he's noticing a lot more injuries in younger athletes when they transition into professional sports. He had mentioned the NBA and specifically. The first thing that pops in my head, because I'm a diehard Browns fan, is Grant Delpit, who, you know, came from LSU, star safety. He was getting like Ed Reed comps at the time. Training camp, tears his Achilles, I think, a couple days in. Is it like a disconnect? Because it's not unique to Grant Delpit. I see it happening with a bunch of rookies coming in from college to the NFL. Is there a disconnect in conditioning with some of these college programs, or is the coaching should be more individualized for specific player needs? Is that what's going on? Because we are seeing like an uptick in that in the recent years.
Every football season, preseason, those OTAs, you're going to see defensive backs, running backs, receivers pedaling a bicycle on the sideline. Mm-hmm. They have hamstring issues. They have quad issues. They have hip flexor issues. I don't think they should have those issues. About 8-9 years ago, for 2 seasons, I sent the Browns an email. I can fix these hamstrings and these quads and these tight hips. It's not really that hard. I'm not a genius. It just requires some fundamental movement type things. And you won't have these little tiny issues. Anything can happen. People get hurt. You know, that's not going to be an issue. But there is a lot of repetitive injuries. And I just don't think they spend a lot of time trying to do that. I had some youth baseball players a couple of years ago, trained a youth team. I think they were 13 to 15s. And they went to an exhibition game with the Yankees. They were as happy as a 6-year-old in a toy store on December 23rd. They couldn't wait to get there. They were anxious. They get there, and I got 5 pictures from them looking down into the practice area and they were using stretch bands. The New York Yankees were using stretch bands to warm up and get ready to play. And I said, you know what? It's not a secret. People just don't.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's so simple. It's like asking somebody, how much is 1 + 1? Well, this is a trick. Yeah, this is a trick. It's that simple. Just to follow some regular routine stuff to keep the body more flexible, more powerful. And what I said earlier, I'll tell you later why you're so slow, because you're weak. The center part of most kids' bodies are very, very weak. I'm talking shoulders to knees. When I say core, most people think, oh, the 8-pack, the 6-pack. Yeah, but it's a lot of connective muscles there. Yeah, posterior chain. You got all these things that have to work together. So you have to work these things together. And it creates muscle memory, but it's got to be good movements. And we talked about lunges earlier. Usually a female athlete that I've been in contact with over the last few decades, the first athletic experience is with soccer at age 4. I think if I ask 200 girls, when is your first athletic experience with a team? 198 will say soccer age 4.
Yeah.
That's good. I mean, I think team sports are phenomenal. No greater teacher of life than sport. You win, you lose, you want to, you don't want to. But what happens with these young soccer girls from age 4 to about age 15 is they do one exercise incorrectly for 12 years, and that is a lunge. I was in Medina doing something a few weeks ago, and some kids were playing soccer. And there's about 10 or 12 of them, and I'm watching them do lunges. I turned my back. I can't watch this. I want to be a witness to it. I told the one kid, I said, you know any of those kids? He goes, yeah, it looks like my friend's little sister. I'm like, just kind of in the back of your mind, 7 years from now, see if she's getting ACL surgery. So it's just some fundamental stuff. It's the little things that make the big things happen.
Right.
And so you start doing the little things, the bigger things start happening. But a huge part of what you mentioned earlier was about recovery stuff. It's not an accident that all pro sports have recovery days. They have time off. There's an insider training secret I'll tell you guys. Don't tell anybody else.
It's only exclusive right here on the show, folks.
If I beat you up for 8 to 10 weeks, we work out, do all of this stuff, man. I'm a super core guy. I have athletes in the past call me Mr. Push-Up. We're going to do push-ups, sit-ups, and bodyweight squats. We're going to use a lot of stretch bands, which is strength as well as flexibility. But we do that for, say, 6 to 10 weeks, a couple times a week. So we got 12, 14, 18 sessions in there. If you have a competition the following Friday, and so this is Friday, so next Friday you have a competition. Here's what we're going to do for the next 3 days to get you ready for your competition, for your combine, for your baseball showcase, for your soccer showcase. We're not going to do anything. Do not tell anybody else I said that. Because what happens is I beat you up for 8, 10, 12 weeks. Now I'm allowing the muscles to recover, and they will be quicker, faster, and stronger if we allow them to recover. So I would run faster in a 4x1 at a league championship and then not do anything for 3 to 4 days and get ready for the district championship, and we break a record.
Wow.
Newspaper radio guy said, how did they run faster in like 7 days? What'd you do? Nothing. No, really, what'd you do? We didn't do anything. Did a little jogging, a little stretching, laughed, made fun of people, just that kind.
Yeah.
We didn't do anything. So the insider training secret, the take with stuff, is recovery. And I say that 8 to 21-year-olds are not stopping.
No.
They're playing sport to sport to sport to sport to sport. Sometimes 3 sports in one season. You can tell them they're the ones walking around on crutches or their legs are hurt because they're doing more. Recovery is an insider training secret. There you have it. You got an exclusive here live.
Yeah. Well, not only, coach, are these kids not recovering, like you said, one thing I learned from you, one of the biggest things was hydration. And I remember we used to do 4 or 5 bottles of water during the day before practice or game, whatever, Gatorade, play, practice, perform. After practice, chocolate milk, low fat, just
Yep.
replenish. You want to touch on that real briefly? I think hydration is something. I mean, a lot of these kids now, coach, not only are they playing too much, but I watch what they're drinking energy drinks. They're, chugging a bunch high sugar drinks nonstop, no water, pop constantly. I'm like, that's part of recovery as well, is not only before and after,
Yep.
or before and during, but after as well.
I learned a thing I call the hydration circle. Sports, way back in the day, the real day, the pediatricians wanted kids to consume half their body weight in ounces of water. So you got a ninth grade boy who weighs 140 pounds. He's supposed to drink 70 ounces of water. Sports medicine people are like, man, that's a lot of water, and we need water, and that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
So the sports people start saying, you know what, back when I played in high school and college at Eastern Ohio State, the bottles were like 12 ounces. Now they're like 16.9 or something. So they said, hey, what you do is you just sip on this water all day. Just sip, 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 sip. And by that way, you're getting about 30 some ounces of water in. You're going to do 2 or 3 bottles in a school day to get to. That's plenty of water. But here's the bigger issue. Water will not keep you in the game. Water is good. We need water. There's a lot of stuff in water. But water will not keep you in the game when it's 97 degrees on turf, which feels like 120.
15 degrees hotter.
Yeah. And you've been out there for 5 hours. And you're cooking, man. You can see the heat coming off the surface. So now you need a sport beverage of some kind. You need some protein, carbohydrates. You need electrolytes.
Mm-hmm.
We're sweating out sugar. We're sweating out fat. We're sweating out protein. So we need to make those things recover. That's where your sport beverage comes in. So we get some water in us. We get the electrolytes from a sport beverage. And when it's over, low-fat chocolate, low-fat strawberry milk. It's like super recovery beverage.
Yeah.
And it tastes good as long as you're not lactose intolerant. You can go and get that fancy one for like $5 a bottle, or you can get the store brand for $2. It's the exact same thing.
Yeah.
Except it doesn't have a cute little picture on it. So I used to tell my kids, I just got this fancy one here. I just opened it. I didn't drink it. Here you go. I got the one for $1 and I just poured it in that bottle. But so we got to get that cycle going. And it actually, in 3 to 10 days, you just feel better.
Right.
Those energy drinks scare me. I call them a heart attack in a can. I don't know why people want to suck those things down. They had all of these issues with those things for over decades. But we don't need to be bothering with that stuff. But water, sport beverage, low-fat chocolate, low-fat strawberry milk. In fact, I think now about 70 schools have a banner hanging in their gym. Refuel, low-fat chocolate, low-fat strawberry milk. About 20 years ago, I had the lady that started that coming from Columbus, coming to Akron to train with me 3 days a week. I met her at the state track and field meet, and I don't know why, but I went over to her little booth at the state meet. I had some kids in the state meet, and she just started talking about working out and training. Never saw her before in my life. And we kept talking. She says, I'm the director of, I forget what they call it. And I'm like, oh, that's nice. And I coach track and field and train athletes. And she goes, really? She showed me a picture of herself. She lost like 70 pounds. I'm like, that's phenomenal. And we talked about the benefits of refueling with low-fat chocolate and low-fat strawberry milk. Turns out she shows up in Akron to train with me and about 12 kids about 8 times. Of course, she brought us some free milk, so that was cool. But
that's pretty. I never knew that though, because those signs were actually back when I was in school. I used to see that. We had that, and we also had in the bathrooms the urine. You can scale how hydrated you are.
Yeah.
So I mean, they are a lot better with it now. At least put it in the kids' face so they see it all day.
Yeah. That's and now that's that test is still around. The urine test. You look like chocolate milk, something's wrong. You look more like lemonade, you're doing all right. Except if you live in where there's well water, where I lived for 20 years, it's like, what? Everything's brown. But, and it's just, those are the little things that make a difference. I mean, that kind of stuff, if you stay hydrated, or having coaches know that if you're practicing 11 to 1, that's probably the hottest part of June, July, and August. If the heat index is 90 and it's 95 outside, the turf probably feels like 120.
Yeah.
That's hot. That's cooking stuff. So you got to take more breaks. I've been outside training when it was literally air temperature 105, but we stopped every 6-7 minutes and we didn't run 1900 meters. We just, we did the exercises, we did the physical stuff, we did the short sprints and stop, hydrate. In fact, I got some kids that play travel baseball and they go to Indiana, Georgia, and Texas. Oftentimes in August, the parents will text me and go, we're on our 25-minute stoppage for fluids. It's hot. And they're playing turf, playing baseball on turf. When I played baseball, I could see that ball coming like a carom at your face. But they're playing turf and it's hot. So they're taking breaks. They're starting to get it. We're starting to kind of come around a little bit.
Yeah, I think that's key too. I think also too, one thing is just proper breathing as well when you're running or you're training. Kids a lot of times can hyperventilate, shallow breath can make you feel a little, dizzy. And how much do you watch that when you're training kids or just athletes? Just make sure everything's flowing correctly.
The athletes I usually watch the most. I have a football guy now that probably he's going to think Indiana or Penn State in about 4 weeks for invite combine for football. When I started with him, we ran a 20 and I videoed it and I went back and looked at it and his veins were popping out the side of his neck like somebody was strangling him. And I'm looking at him. I'm like, do you hold your breath? He goes, yeah. Muscles need oxygen to move. You got to breathe. So him, I would do something with, but we breathe naturally pretty good.
Yeah.
Our bodies know, hey, I'm a little fatigued. I got to take in some air. I got to put some air out. So for the most part, I tell kids, just let your body breathe. Don't try to hold your breath. But this kid ran like a 4.940 twice, not breathing.
Wow.
We start teaching them to breathe, and he goes to one of those camps and did a 4.6. And that's fully automatic timing. Although people I coach with call me Mr. Automatic. It's supposed to be about 2.2 so difference in hand time and a fully automatic timing. I'm usually about 1.2. Been timing a long time, so I kind of hit the button closer to being on time with fully automatic. But that's good stuff. You just gotta breathe naturally. Just breathe. Don't try. There's a kid that came to me one time and he bought this $500 mask. It's VO2 maxing, and he's I'm like, dude, man.
I've seen those. Yeah.
I'm like, let's just run.
Yeah, let it do it naturally. They did it before that, so.
yeah.
But I know Mike's got a question to follow up on. To ask you, Coach. I got to follow up real quick because I know you mentioned earlier about the Browns training staff. You sent them an email. And obviously, we cover the Browns in the show in the NFL, and you and I talked about that a couple months ago down at the conference room in Hope. Yeah, I can't wait to ask you this. But how's your relationship with NFL teams or just sports teams? Has any of them actually reached back to you, and
no.
You want to get any input?
Nope. I feel bad when I watch these guys. And again, it's going to start next month. You'll see the Browns out there.
Oh yeah, well, him and I cover it, and we see guys on the sideline constantly on bikes, just sitting out. Yeah.
I can't play this week. My hamstrings, and injuries happen. But I think there are some things you can do to prevent some of those injuries.
Yeah.
To keep them from doing that, from missing 3 weeks in the preseason.
Are there any teams through the athletes you've worked with that you stood out to you that really you think they do it the right way?
There's a few. I remember Delon Carter was at the Colts. He sent me a picture of some bands on the floor when he got there, but he came home and he got 2 more to take back with him. I remember a couple other athletes, a baseball player. They were doing preseason stuff for their conditioning. They were doing flexibility and balance things. That's my training and learning from sports medicine stuff. We got to do preseason prep, man. We got to get our bodies ready to go to battle. And you can't get ready to go to battle by just, all right, I'm going to weight room 47 times. My friends coach football. I tell them, I think sometimes you're setting these athletes up to fail because Monday's lower body, Wednesday is upper body. So we do that 42 times, but life happens and you may miss 21 upper bodies So now we've created a muscle imbalance. We are going to get hurt that first week of football. Yeah. So I would like to see more of a combination kind of thing. But, man, I wish everybody would go to Woody Hayes Athletic Center. I haven't been down there in about 5-10 years, but the band wall was like 50 yards. They work bands all the time, man. Yeah. They're doing flexibility, power, and balance all the time. They got a 20 by 50 sand pit behind the Woody Hayes Athletic Center. If you ever go down there, go look at that. They spend a lot of time in that.
I've seen that, actually, yeah.
Yeah, unbalanced stuff, man. You get your feet and ankle on an unbalanced surface, man. Crazy stuff starts happening to your body. You start getting in a little better conditioning, then the lower extremities start getting stronger. Again, less chance for injury when we're more flexible and more pliable. Yeah. So that kind of stuff would be phenomenal. I know my football friends like, no, we gotta go in the weight room, man. This guy's got to squat 650. Yeah, but he can't tie his own shoe. How's he gonna get in a 3-point stance?
Yeah.
So, but I would just like to see more power, speed, balance, those kinds of things, and I think it'll make a difference in the NFL. These are marquee athletes, man. They're doing a lot of stuff. So a little more prep, maybe. Spend a little more time doing some flexibility, more balance. But injuries happen, stuff happens.
Yeah,
we can't. But the non-contact ones are the ones I think that sports medicine can deal with and help more with.
I actually saw one of your clients, actually, Paris Campbell, down there because he played at Ohio State doing sand work one time, and he was one of the first guys I ever saw run in his first championship game versus Bellevue. And I remember seeing the strides and just the first one he took out on the right sideline. You could just see the difference. Actually, I met Coach through Tyler Gilchrist and his dad, Mac.
Oh, yeah.
And, Mac used to do the same drills you did with Tyler after our practices over at the Falls at Ross Park. And that's how I got introduced to you. Yeah. And he's another one who I saw he did the SpongeBob homework you gave him about the push-ups and the sit-ups and the stretching. And man, he came a long way, man. I remember I went and saw him, and he was just a completely different athlete.
Definitely.
Overnight. He turned out to be a phenomenal athlete, state championship at Hoban, and went out to play college ball.
Yep, definitely. And one of the other things that people tell me about what I do is I'm a firm believer. Once you start to believe it, you start to achieve it. If you just show up, my dad wants me to do this, man, we're not going anywhere with this. But when you start to believe it, you start to achieve it. And you start feeling better when you're playing better. You're not injured. You're not tired. You're not sore. You're not hurting. So it just makes everything come out a little bit better. But it's just the little things. Tyler did it. His cousin, Jonte Pooler, was one of the last guys cut on the Browns about 6-7 years ago.
Yeah, I know. I remember I met Jonte, and he actually told me I'd go to Coach Legrair too.
and, He did really, really well, man. I had like 5 dudes from Stowe, I think, around there. But they bought in, man. They started believing it, and that makes it easy. When you start to believe it, you start to achieve it. But you got to put the work in. It's not really that hard, but I tell people when we start, we can do this. It's not going to be easy, but it'll be worth it.
Yeah, and I think that, before I let Mike go, one of the things when I talk about working with you, and I worked with my other trainer in baseball, Jim Gleisner, I remember the first day I worked with Jim, he told my dad, he goes, listen, I can teach him all the mechanics I want, but if he don't got it up here, if he doesn't buy in and his confidence, it's never going to work. And, yourself and him and you guys definitely had us buy in because we believed it. We knew what you were saying was just by the actions, you didn't have to talk much, and you start to feel it too. But, if you guys, anybody watching, the link is also out here. If you guys want to come here and ask Coach a question, feel free to leave a comment. If you got any questions for Coach, and Mike, I know you got a question. Go ahead.
I do. I got to ask because I know that you worked with Butch Reynolds. Can you just expand on that relationship that you had with him? What it was like working with like an athlete of that caliber? What sets kind of like a Butch Reynolds apart from some other athletes that you've worked with?
Butch was he was hardcore, man. I mean, he wanted it. He was going after it. And they went to Hoban. And when he came out of Hoban, there wasn't a lot of people asking for him. He went to a junior college, and the rest is history. but just being around him and listening to him talk and listening to him go. Every time I go to the state track and field meet for the last 20 plus years, I go to dinner with Butch Reynolds and whoever I have at the state meet. And we sit down and, man, you talk about something. There's a kid maybe about 9 years ago, his sister was running in one of our 4x1 relays or 4x2. And he knew about Butch Reynolds, which was amazing. He's like 9-10 years old. And I didn't tell him. And I told his mom not to tell him when we go to dinner, Butch was going to be there. Man, this kid was happy as all get out. And whenever Butch comes, he brings his gold medal, he brings his silver medal, and he brings his IAAF giant ring because he's in the Hall of Fame. This ring is bigger than your hand. And this kid, he said, can I take a picture with him? I'm like, he don't care, man. Go on up there. He walked up and he said, Mr. Reynolds, may I please take a photograph with you? He took all these pictures, man. This dude made it his background. He made it his home screen. He was showing it off at school. And Butch never, ever, ever told me no. Every time, over 20 years, I went to the state track and field meet, call him up, we're going to be there Saturday, want to go to dinner. Yep, shows up, brings his milk. And I tell you how crazy Butch is. I had his gold and silver medal and his Hall of Fame ring for about 3 months.
Wow.
I'm like, dude, I want to show this to somebody. He said, here. I'm like, no, I want you to bring it. No, you can keep it. Are you crazy? It's a gold and silver medal, man.
Yeah.
This is a big IAAF ring. Then we were training some kids. We had a program in Akron, and I had to buy some stuff. So he said, here's my credit card. You buy this. I had his credit card for like 6 months. I'm like, dude, you crazy. I could have been in Hawaii right now.
Sounds like a very trusting guy.
Yeah, very honorable.
But I'm like, I don't think I'd have gave anybody my gold and silver medal. But I mean, that's the kind of guy he is. And like I say, he never, ever, ever told me no when I go down there. And kid love it. They absolutely love it. Someone sent me a picture from like 2017 or 18 a few months ago. Every time it's springtime, I always think about track and field and being at that state meet with Butch Reynolds. Then I had a kid that was second in the 400, maybe 2018, 17. And that was a day that Butch was presenting the medals to the 400 runners at the state track and field meet. We went to dinner with Butch the night before, and he was talking 400 stuff with this kid. Then he ends up second, and Butch hangs a medal around his neck. How cool is that?
Yeah, that's crazy. Coach, I know he had a 30 for 30 documentary just came out as well,
Yes.
and he was false positive. I'm curious, what was your thoughts on that?
That was insane. I remember he was going through that, and I mean, you talk about a loss of income, beating you up like that. Other athletes kind of like, well, whatever, dude, and then it turns out it was false, which I think they've done 18 million safeguards on that kind of stuff now. But that was just bizarre. That was too bizarre. And for him to be as resilient as he is, I talked to him about not quite a month ago, and he's still upbeat, man. He's still positive. He's still talking track and field, still training some kids in Columbus. We talk about that stuff a lot, and he's doing something in Northeast Ohio that I don't think I'm supposed to talk about yet, so I won't. But he's just still after it, man. It's just amazing that all of the crap he went through with track and field, particularly. I mean, he's still battling for it, man. We don't like what APS is doing with track and field. We need more participation, stuff like that. So he's still battling, still doing it. I tried to get him earlier today, but I couldn't catch him.
Yeah. Shout out to Butch Reynolds. Absolute legend. He can come on here anytime he wants. But
we were a little quick
2 a.m.
We were at Bob Evans one time a few years ago eating breakfast. We had to go and we did a camp in Wadsworth, and we're sitting there, man, and this guy was just staring us down. So I'm getting a little nervous. I'm like, do you know this dude, man? This dude is like, he's watching us eat. So he said, nope. We got finished eating, and the guy walked up. He's probably in his 30s. He said, excuse me, are you Butch Reynolds? And he said, yes. So I'm like, I hope this isn't a crazy dude. So he goes, can I get an autograph? He goes, Butch said, yeah. He said, I'll be right back. I'm like, uh-oh. This guy goes out to his car and he brings in a college baseball card type thing with all Butch's stats on it.
Wow.
And he brings in this thing from 1988 Olympics when he broke the world record in the 400. So I'm like, dude, how long have you been carrying this around waiting for this moment? He said, a long time. It was so crazy. Now, this is some 20-some years later.
Yeah.
This guy still got this, and Butch signed it for him and took a picture, man. It was real cool, man.
Wow, that's incredible. That's insane. Who are some other athletes you work with? Maybe people may know.
I'm not a big name dropper, but I'll tell you a few names because they have told people, and don't mind me telling their names. I don't really like doing it. I don't even like bragging on myself, but
right. No, you are a very humble man.
I'm like, why am I saying this? But to talk about bragging before I give you some names, like Butch Reynolds, some pro football players, some pro baseball guys, a guy who runs a company that's making $1 million. He said, why don't you tell people that you're very good at teaching football combine skills? Mm-hmm. Why don't you tell people you're very good at hurdles? You're very good at starts. You're very good at stealing second. I don't know. I mean, people call me because somebody liked it and they tell somebody. So I kind of use that, but I've never been braggadocious. I just feel like it's bragging, but you know, people tell me, no, you need to do that more. David Morgan, author, you got to write a book. You got to get this out there. So, but DeLon Carter, Mr. Football, state of Ohio, played about 3-4 years in the NFL. Paris Campbell, St. V, Ohio State. Duran Grant, now the football coach at St. V. And when I speak to groups, I tell a story about Duran Grant. I grew up with his dad in East Akron. Mm-hmm. And Duran was the most nicest kid I had come in contact with other than my own. I started with him about 9 years old. We did summer track and field. And I'm training him, and everything I said to him, he said, yes, sir. So you got to get your leg up a little bit higher. Yes, sir. When you come to the hurdle, you got to attack that hurdle, drag the trail leg through, get your hips over the hurdle. Yes, sir. Never said anything to me but yes, sir. So I was working with some of the St. V kids, and we were talking to them about what we're getting ready to do. And I'm like, I got to tell you guys a story. And Duran's like, oh, goodness. But just the nicest dude all the time.
Yeah.
Man. But, you know, and those names I drop because, you know, like I say, they tell people all the time. And oftentimes they may send me athletes to train or something. But
yeah. I know you were also President Paris's camp he has for children now.
Yes.
I know that's coming up again next month.
Yeah, I'm a DJ and an announcer too, but I don't DJ anymore. But I announce basketball games for 20-some years, I think. Division I, you know, a whole bunch of high school games, tournament games. So I announced his thing last year. It was great. It was big fun.
Yeah, it was a great.
And now he's in Dallas.
Great program.
Yep, he's in Dallas now.
Yeah, yeah. Shout out to Paris. He's got a podcast as well with his wife, and it's a great show. Go check it out.
Yeah.
Shout out to Paris. He's one of my favorite athletes growing because he was older than me. He was in high school. We were in middle school, but we used to go to their games. We looked up to them a lot, and you know, obviously, I knew him through you because of. Well, I know he worked with you through you. You told me, and watching him run and stuff was unbelievable. One of the fastest players I've ever seen. But
yeah, he was swift, man. I'm telling you what. Did a lot of running at St. Vincent St. Mary track. I like when they let those guys introduce themselves for the NFL.
Yeah,
there should be no greater marriage for a sport than track and field and football. But I have battled with football coaches over the years about letting the kid leave him alone from February to June, let them get faster, quicker, and stronger. And when I say stronger, people automatically go Arnold Schwarzenegger. No, don't want that. We want power and speed and flexibility. So what greater marriage would there be than track and field and football? Ted Ginn and I used to sit at the state meet and laugh because Ted Ginn did football and track and field at Glenville. He would laugh when I say, man, they want these guys doing track and field. And he laughed at them. He's like, they're crazy. What greater marriage? So I like when they introduce the athletes and they go, yeah, Bill Jackson. You know, Bill was a hurdle champion in high school. Ding, ding, ding. David Smith. Smith was a 100-meter champion for the state of Florida. Ding, 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 ding. I mean, no greater marriage than that. But specificity comes in sometime, and too many kids and too many people want to just do this one thing. Yeah. Sports medicine does not like that. Your body needs to get breaks, and your body needs to have different movements.
Yeah, I know you and I have talked about that. I know Mike's got one before you. But to follow up on that, because you and I had this conversation outside the track, I think it was like a month ago or 2 months ago, whatever it was, about how the participation now and how it's hard to get football players to come run track, and how a lot of times, what's the difficulty nowadays? I know there's a lot of coaches that deal with that nowadays in multiple sports I've talked to and heard of. That it's hard now to get kids to stay committed, and then when they're in the weight room, even a lot of times there's a lot of standing around in the weight room. They're not really working out properly. I mean, what's that like in your eyes today?
It's really, really difficult, and it puts the kid in a bad position. There are two schools in Northeast Ohio whose names I will not mention, but it was so bad at those schools with, I call it athlete stealing. Like, I'm in track and field season. Leave my kids alone. I would never go to the soccer folks in August and say, oh, she won't be here for 5 days because we're going to North Carolina running a track and field meet. She's going to miss 4 practices and maybe 2 of your games. I would never do that. But other sports don't mind going to track and field and say, you better get in the weight room. You better show up at this camp. You better come to mandatory practices for soccer. You better be out here for cross. Why? Right. So track and field coaches think there's just a general disrespect for the sport. But I always tell people when I speak to groups, it's really amazing. Everybody wants to run fast, but everybody wants to crap on track and field. You want to go on, you want to go and do 9 other things from February to June and wonder why, man, I'm not getting any faster. Well, you're not. You're too divided. It's not a big red S on any kid's chest. It's just too much. That's another one of those more is not better. And recovery is critical. But don't remember, you learned it here. Best secret in the world, recovery.
Yeah, and I see it all the time. I talk to parents. A lot of times I think it's the biggest issue is the parents and then the coaches as well. A lot of times the coaches, they're so, rigid, stuck in their way. Like, we got to do this, got to be this way or that way or the highway, And a lot of times the parents, they think I can't tell how many times my dad and I, my mom, even if we've had conversation with other parents, we tell them to either contact you or, do a lot of things you just mentioned, but they complain, well, my kid's not getting faster. He's not getting as much playing time. I'm like, well, you got to put the work in. You got to commit to one thing and stick to it, break it step by step. And it's like your program, it's best completed in phases, right? There's phase 1. You can't everybody wants to get to, phase 9, let's say, but they want to get to phase 9 right away. They don't want to do all the other stuff beforehand to get there.
That's it. And that's the thing too. When I speak to a group, I'm like, it's little bitty steps at a time, little bitty bites of the apple at a time. We do little stuff to get to the big stuff. It's like building a house. If you can't go right to the attic, there's nothing underneath it to hold it up. So you got to do the basement. You get that straightened out. Let me go put a ceiling on there. Then we go to the next floor. We got that straightened out. Then we go to the next floor. There is not a get fast, quick scheme. Although every couple months, somebody will call me. I saw this thing online. They can make my 40-yard dash faster in 9 hours for $599. I'm like, yeah, well, okay, good luck with that. It's so I can do something. I can make you faster in probably an hour. But it's that old adage of what I'm doing is I'm really feeding you a fish. But if I spend some time with you and work muscle groups and do some different stuff, I'm teaching you to fish, and now you can eat for life. Or you can say, I just want to run fast today, which I don't know any athlete that wants to do that. They want to get something out of it to make it longer.
Yeah, that's good stuff right there. Hopefully some people watch and take notes of that, especially parents and coaches. But anybody got any questions for Coach before we get out of here? Hurry up and please put a comment in now. If you're watching, please put the comment in, and the coach will respond to your comment. You got any questions for him? Were you going to say something there, Coach? I'm sorry.
No, I'm going to say it's tough. It's a tough sell. I mean, there's a lot of distractions. There's a lot of people saying you got to be on this club team and spend $3,000, and you got to go here. You got to play in Indiana. You got to play in Georgia. You got to play in Texas. You know, one thing I learned a long time ago: the cream rises to the top. I had a kid in Orville several years ago, big kid, and everybody's like, "You ought to go somewhere else, man. You need to transfer. You got to get to where they can see you. They can see you." Ended up playing in West Virginia. So the cream will rise to the top, and it's hard. I mean, I don't like this portal thing. That'll be a topic for another day for athletes, but you know, you got a lot of high school kids shopping high schools. And when I speak to groups, I stress you're a student athlete. Without the student, there's no athlete. Coaches are being fired in college because they have bad GPAs. So you
just happened here in Akron.
Bing, 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 bing. I didn't want to do any name calling, but
well, I mean, it is public, so I'll mention it. But yeah,
yeah. So you have to be the student part, or you can't be the athlete part. You know, way back in the day, if you can put a tennis ball under your neck and jump up and dunk it, you're going to college. I don't care if you got 19 Fs, but not anymore. You know, you got to. This coach is going to get fired if you show up and not cutting the grade there. And there's too much hopping in college too. I really don't.
Oh yeah, I mean that's a whole. I mean, I have somebody come on the show here was just in college, just actually left, not because of that, but a lot of the ins and outs of it, the politics, and I think it's tougher on the athletes too. I mean, it's like you just said. It kind of goes along with what we're talking about today. If you go from one program, one strength coach's mind, to another one, and then another one, it's like I don't know how your body ever really takes off. You know what I mean? A lot of these kids that hop around or they go to these premier high schools, I don't really see a lot of them that pan out, coach, to actually make it to where they want to get to.
It's hard. I mean, and the other thing is, so you go to, let's say, a college that has a couple good quarterbacks and you're a quarterback. Used to be they'll go, well, you got to wait your turn. You know, you got to play better than this guy, do this. They don't play in the first 3 games, man. They're going to the portal.
Right.
You're getting out of there, you know. So I'm not a huge fan of that. Oh, did I turn my camera off? You still see?
No,
me?
You're good.
Okay. You know, so you just gotta wait it out, man. You just gotta wait. But everything's instant now. I mean, we want to run a 900 in 2 days. You know, we want to go 80 points in a basketball game in 3 days. So
it's like society in general too. I mean, if you want food, you just DoorDash.
Yeah.
You don't go to the store anymore and get groceries and cook it yourself.
Hit reset and let's start over. So, you know, but the kids want to put in the work. There's usually a benefit. But I say in track and field meetings, you may not go to state track and field meet, but if you started out running 14-second 100 and in March and in May, you run 13.3, 13.5, my work here is done. I start every season saying everybody must improve. And if you do the work, put the time in, you will improve.
Yeah, that's good stuff. Mike, I know you got one question here. You want to get off?
One more question for you, Coach. I'm just curious. I know you're a humble guy and you don't want to get braggadocious. But is there an athlete that you had worked with that maybe surprised you? I know you had mentioned in your article that you have a little bit of an eye for talent, but is there somebody that like surprised you that you didn't expect to blow up or take that next leap and they ended up doing so?
A lot. I start every season. I tell parents at our first meeting, I got a tall task here. I'm up for it. I go to work. It's not a job. If this ever became a job, I'd stop. It's fun and challenging for me, but there are a lot of kids. And I used to always start in December, January for my April meet. At that point, I said, I got 100 ugly ducklings. So I have to spend 8 weeks and turn some of them into swans. And just recently, we had a kid, I think he ran almost 2 seconds faster in an 800 the other day. We had a girl that ran a 12.800 from a 13.4. So it's just amazing to watch how that stuff develops. But there's a lot of kids that people wanted to give up on. They were ugly ducklings. And they put the time in, they put the work in, turn into swans.
Yeah. Well, Coach, I can't thank you enough. I mean, it's been awesome. I think we'll have to do a part 2, talk about some other stuff as well, because we can probably sit here and talk all night. And
absolutely.
Especially like myself and Mike. I mean, I love listening to you, and it's tremendous knowledge that not a lot of people really know, but I think especially for parents, it's great knowledge for the kids and for coaches. And I see the sign behind you, Coach, says Speed for Sports. They got the phone number back there. If you want to talk about your program and what you have, I also have the thing you sent me yesterday. I'll pull up here. If you want to digress on your program, where they can find you at, if parents are interested in contacting you.
That's telephone number 330-592-1618. The email is easy2@aol.com. I don't think I have time to do the website thing. I keep saying I'm going to do that, but I tell people when I talk to groups also, there's one thing I have less of than money, and that's time. So you hit me up in the cell phone, or you pop me up on an email. We'll talk to you and see what's up, and try to get something going. Like I say, I don't know everything, but I do know some people that can help me find the answers to those things.
Well, Coach, I can't thank you enough, and I appreciate you for coming on, and we'll let you get out of here. And thank you so much.
Yeah, I appreciate the time, man.
Absolutely. Coach Johnnie Legrair, everybody. Shout out to Coach Legrair. Mike, that was a tremendous interview.
That was tremendous. That was awesome.
We learned a lot. I know Mike learned a lot tonight as well. I learned a lot. Even I worked with him and still learned a lot. Mike, you want to tell everybody like, subscribe, and share if you aren't subscribed already?
Absolutely. Please like, subscribe, and share this content. We want to continuously grow what we're doing here so we can have some more great people on our show like Coach. If you could share this, it's absolutely free. If you're not subscribed already, please subscribe. It's free. It helps out the show. And just leave a like. Thank you to everybody who watched the show. Leave a comment. Let us know what you thought. And absolutely, if you have a child or somebody who wants to train and get right, absolutely look up Coach
Speed for Sports.
Speed for Sports. So, but thank you, Coach, so much again for joining us. Absolutely. And like, subscribe, and share.
Absolutely. Shout out to Coach. We got to clap over that one, man. Shout out to Coach. Well, also, if you're new to this channel, my man right here, Professional Mike, he has his own show as well. If you haven't seen that, here's a little snippet of that. That's right, the Professional Fan with Mike Antonis over here at the Real Media. Mike, what can they expect from him this week over on the TPF?
So I'm going to be going into draft reviews. Already kind of went through a Browns draft review. I think I'm going to start going into deeper delves into each individual player. There are a lot of players that the Browns picked that, I mean, we as Browns fans are probably already pretty familiar with, right? Quinshon Judkins comes to mind, Harold Fannin Jr. from Canton, played at Bowling Green, probably pretty familiar with him. But there are some players that Browns fans admittedly aren't very familiar with. My instantaneous thought comes to mind, the 33rd overall pick, Carson Schweisinger, who I will be doing a deep dive into. He's a phenomenal linebacker. I think Cleveland will love him. And then I'll probably get into just some overall draft grades for the rest of the NFL as we approach training camp before we start delving deep into that.
Well, it's going to be good stuff. I'm looking forward to it. And like we said earlier, like, subscribe, and share all the good stuff. Leave a comment below, and we'll see you guys in the next one. We're out of here. Gone.